Welcome everyone to Loud and Proud Orlando. How's everybody doing? It's Monday, June the 23rd, 6:43 p.m. Thank you for being live. 12 about 15 people live right now. So thank you for your support. If you're on X, make sure that you're retweeting the video that's going to show there the way it's on your feed. Also, if you're on YouTube, make sure you drop us your comments. We'll read them all as soon as we can. It's Football's coming back. I know the Club World Cup is on right now. Inter Miami plays Palmeiras in a little bit. We're going to be also touching a little bit about that later on. But the topics today are essentially we're going to be talking about the really big win of our academy, the Patterson Cup, U14 MLS Next Cup win. We're going to be talking about also the U.S. men's national team advancing in the Gold Cup. We're going to do a little mid-season review. And then we have a guest coming up. We're going to be previewing St. Louis City SC away game with Mo Football. So stick around. Make sure you drop your questions. It's a must-win for Orlando City. And I'm here with John. How are you, John?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. How's it going,
Can you
man?
hear me okay?
Yeah, I can
We're
hear.
having
Can you
a
hear me?
little, yeah, I got you. We're having a little technical difficulty today. A slow start for us on this Monday. So thank you, everybody, for patience and being here. Yeah, you want to dive in? Let's talk all about the latest of the Academy wins, Luis. I feel like we're always talking about Academy wins. Obviously, we had the GA Cup already. They won that, the U18s. The Patterson Cup was won by the U13s and won by the U14s. And now the U14s have done it again, but this time they've won the first ever MLS Next Cup at the U14 level. Before this, it did not exist. So, congratulations, Luis, to the U14s for the winning the MLS Next Cup at that level. So another impressive win for the academy.
Yeah, tremendous. I mean, you're talking about, it's a tournament that's prestigious. The probably rivals the next MLS Next Cup in prestige, especially for both age groups. It's huge. I mean, it's huge for again for what Orlando's building as a club, but it's even more and even I feel even better for the sport in general. We're looking in this Club World Cup, and you've seen, that fire in the eyes of some of these South American players playing for, club like Botafogo and Flamengo and, Palmeiras. And, you see how they fight for every ball, and, that is, growing up, you know, wanting to play for that club, like that's your ultimate goal, playing pro in a big club. And for these kids, since they started playing the sport, it's been Orlando City, and them reaching out their first really big accolade. It's tremendous. My hat's off, and they definitely deserve a round of applause for sure. And again, another win for Orlando City, another trophy. I think we should definitely showcase these trophies also in our trophy chest that we have there at Interco Stadium. John, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the academy, like, maybe they have their own trophy
Yeah.
chest somewhere. I don't know, like the GA. You I don't know how high up you say goes in that trophy chest. I don't know whether that's a thing. Maybe we should have an academy one. They probably do, or are planning that. I'm sure if they don't already, because they've got four this year. They got to put them somewhere, Luis. Just some great pictures here for the U14s in their win. So congratulations to them once again. We got a few comments here. You want to read those, Luis?
Yeah, sure. Let's see here. What's up? OC Fem says F. Guilla Carlos says let's go. F says Facu finally might score against Inter Miami. Yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. It would definitely. I want Palmeiras to win. That's just the way I see it. I want Palmeiras to win. You know, it just seems, how far these clubs could go. I was surprised with Mamelodi Sundowns. So I have to say that's your team, John.
We'll talk about Kobo Cup for 1 second. Before I got one more thing on MLX Next Cup. The U19s also went very far. They sadly lost in the semifinal to
Yeah.
the Cedar Stars. Or was this in the actual final? I can't remember which. Let me go back and look. But I know they went really far and sadly lost to the Cedar Stars. And that was a team that they kind of had some of the guys that we know, like Caraballo, etc., was in this team. I think that was in the semis that happened. So a good run for the U19s as well. Other levels did pretty reasonably well. But none of them also won their academy. And I'm also going to say this is nationally. So far, Luis, nationally in the GA Cup, the Patterson Cup, the MLS Next Cup, Orlando City are walking away with 4 of the trophies at the academy level. I think that's just an incredible year in 2025 the academy is having. Let's talk about Gold Cup real quick before. Sorry, let's talk about Club World Cup before we talk about Gold Cup, Luis. I know what you're going to say. The Brazilian teams have been impressing you.
Yeah, I mean, at first I thought, I just love the fact that they're fighting for every ball. I think that, you could see, like, for example, that Flamengo Chelsea game, even though I'm a Chelsea supporter, like, it, I have to take my hats off for Flamengo because they were losing that game going at the half. They were losing the game going at the half. And it shows how the Brazilian league is growing, yeah, tremendously. They can go toe to toe. But I just love the grit and the way they are, playing without being afraid. Some of these South American teams, but, if you look at the roster of River Plate against, you match it to Manchester City. I mean, you see the vast difference in cash and in players, and it seems that these teams are playing with a knife on their teeth, and they're going to war. Now the prices are. I don't know if you heard about the prices, but the prices that they're given per match, you get literally each win. It's $1 million. So for some of these
Yeah.
teams in South
I mean,
America,
the South American teams, I think it's not only the money, but also I feel like it is partly that bravado of like,
yeah,
oh, like some of them are ex players from Europe who are like, hey, I can still do it against European players. Some of them have never like get that chance really, just stay in Brazil or Argentina forever and never really get to play against top sides from Europe. So I feel like they are impressing the Brazilian and the Argentinian sides this year in this new competition. They're surprising a lot of people. I mean, look, Palmeiras top of their group, Botafogo second in their group, Boca Juniors, only third, but Flamengo top of their group, River Plate top of their group, Fluminense top of their group. Group G doesn't have anybody from South America, and really all of the Brazilian Argentine teams looking like they're going to go through or in like the 1 or 2 positions in their groups. So yeah, overall, I feel like they've impressed the most, and I feel like that level of determination. You know what I'm saying, Luis? And just like they're like, oh, we will not be embarrassed. We
yeah,
refuse to be beaten by so-called bigger European teams just because they have more expensive players. They're trying to say like that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better players. I think the defense. I've always had questions about South American defense, so I've been impressed how well they've defended.
yeah, and I mean it shows why these are the two leagues in South America. Argentina, even though economically they're not doing too great, they have still tremendous players. And then you have Brazil. What I really love is that Copa Libertadores versus UEFA. A lot of people always are stuck with UEFA and that's flair and that style of UEFA, but not a lot of people have heard of Copa Libertadores. You have to play in really rough terrains to last this tournament. Is one to me is the toughest tournament in soccer. Copa Libertadores is really tough to make it, and I think they are showing that character that playing years and years in Copa Libertadores have built them kind of like a turtles, kind of like a turtles, shell in a way that
Yeah.
they can take,
Toughness. Yeah.
they're tough, man. And so, it took Chelsea by surprise. It took a lot of these teams like PSG, for example. Even Luis Enrique said after they played Botafogo, it's like, this is the best defensive side I've ever faced, even better than the final that we just
Yeah.
played. Yeah,
Well,
so
I also think a few things. The way the seasons work is different for those leagues, so I think there's that to play. I also feel like there's the element of the fact that they don't make as much money. So there's always that issue of like, okay, so the European teams, the big powerhouse teams, perhaps are maybe not as motivated as the South American teams, where the average squad player might be like, oh, I really want to get that extra money. But yeah, it's been interesting, man. I feel like some of the empty stadiums, I went to, like I said, Mamelodi Sundowns. I was there versus Ulsan. So that was kind of the pinnacle of like the other side of the Club World Cup, right? I think the semifinal and the final will be where it really comes into its own, and you'll be like, oh, okay, now we got these like epic teams that have fought hard to get there and really want to win this money. So we'll see how that goes. The
I
other
just
one
think,
is, sorry, Luis, you got.
no, sorry. I just wanted to add real quick. They also made it in a time in which, like the quarterfinal, one of the quarterfinals is going to be playing Orlando, and it's going to be on 4th of July, and people, some people really take 4th of July. I mean, they're not going to go to a soccer match on 4th of July. You know what I mean? So, I think FIFA, but either way, and this is what I've heard from people that are covering, they're working some of the games. What I've heard is that in the West and some of the locations, for example, I think it was MetLife, it's like 70,000 seater, but only, let's say, 45,000 went. And the cheapest ticket was like $90 to $100. So they still make a lot of money, enough to hit the projections they expected.
Yeah.
So right now, what's brewing right now, and I do want to say this, FIFA is moving their headquarters from Zurich to Miami within 2026.
Yeah.
After 2026, the hub for soccer will be Florida. Now, what I've been told by some of these workers is that they've been invited to apply again and because they believe they want to do the 2029 World Cup in the World Cup in the United States again. Now, I don't know if they're going to make it better or with more teams, but it seems that that's what they want to do. The money's here in the United States, apparently.
Yeah, well, we could talk all day about FIFA and all their wrongdoings. I mean, we talked
Yeah.
last episode. I feel like this tournament, the wrong stadiums, wrong times, a lot of things they got wrong. I do feel like it has, with the prize money and the future of like what this is, doing it every 4 years will keep it special. If you do it like right before the World Cup, the year before, to build hype for the World Cup, I think that is good. But it's still really a new money grabby infancy kind of thing. It's the Leagues Cup of the international tournament world. You know what I mean? It's in that same sort of, they're just trying to figure it out and see how we're going to make this new tournament run. But yeah, right now it's interesting. Let's see how it ends, Luis.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk quickly about USA and how Alex is doing in the Gold Cup. So they've won 3 out of 3, 5-0 versus Trinidad, 1-0 versus Saudi Arabia, and now 2-1 versus Haiti, if you didn't see any of those games. Alex played in all 3, and in all 3 we have won. This last game, you can see here right now, he's kind of on the squad, a featured right back for the team. This last game, he really... It's different. I feel like there's moments, Luis, where he's not doing the same thing as he is for Orlando City, but there are flashes of that. There are times when he does get up the field, but then he's more often than not, he's passing, perhaps to a more senior member in the team, not always, taking on as many runs and being as aggressive in the final third as we would see for Orlando City. I don't know whether that's Alex. I don't know whether that's Pochettino. Maybe he'll grow into that more. But so far, some very good performances. There have been some errors here and there,
Yeah, some
but
turnovers.
yeah, but look, the guy's 20 years old. This is playing his first competition. This is what it's about. Like, make these mistakes now. Really get yourself into a position next summer where you can be in the World Cup, Luis. I mean, that's what we've said before. That's all this is really. This is our Alex's audition time if he's really serious about being in the World Cup next year.
Yeah, look, number one, I just feel Alex Freeman needs to take more of like a. I mean, he's already slowly becoming the face of the franchise here in Orlando, and I think that's fine. I do see that Pochettino is making him play a little bit more conservative, and he's trying to use his wingers more tactically. As in Oscar, kind of he's more free flowing and make him be more, attack and defense. And he's done great. But I think what I take about this is number one, like you said, he's kind of getting to know these players, getting to know the group, which is huge. But one thing that you have to take into consideration is he's started in every single Gold Cup match so far. And that tells you that the coach deeply trusts you. Whether you have three or four turnovers, or maybe some of the Haitians wings were kind of bothersome against you, and you lost a couple of duels here and there. I mean, Poch, he already knows that Tolkien and Freeman are okay, and he's not gonna, also Tillman. I'll say Tillman. He's also
Yeah.
done tremendously in this Gold Cup. So, I mean, he has a lot of options now, and I'm 110% sure. And again, I commend the club. Start putting him in the posters. Start printing his jersey more, because this kid is definitely gonna get places. He's gonna be probably the next Alfonso Davis, and I'm telling you, he's definitely going to win something. Whether it's with the national team, he's definitely going to go to the World Cup. To me, I feel unless knock on wood, it's injury based. I think the way Poch has truly pretty much give him the keys of the car and walk away, I think it's a sign of trust. And I think those players are the ones that he wants to take to the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point about rotation. I really expected him to sit one of these 3 games. I think he was the preferred right back for sure. But the fact that he has played all 3 games does really show that Pochettino has a lot of faith in him and believes, in what he can do. Tolkien and Arfson have been rotating on the other side. There was 4 changes for this game against Haiti compared to the first 2 games. So I feel like Poch is really finding his rhythm of like who he likes in what positions. Patrick Adriaman finally got his, like a goal that he's been trying to get. He made that run, and I got a good goal at the end. I feel like some of these guys are getting called out on Twitter by various accounts, Luis, as people like to do. People like to scapegoat guys, but I think overall people forget like this is a mix of dudes who are not really our first team roster. So, like we said before, Luis, this is a really just an audition, and a lot of these guys are trying to do their best now with this team in a Gold Cup so that they can prove to Poch that they're good enough to go to the Gold Cup next year. And I think Alex is definitely achieving that goal at the moment. Other guys, like you said, Tillman, I think Adriaman's definitely seems to be favored by him, even though he's still, very raw, as a lot of people like to say, in the sense that he just skill wise doesn't pull everything off that he tries, but physically, and his mentality is there. And other guys that are okay around Europe, like Aronson and De La Torre, but aren't like incredible and aren't lighting the world on fire, that are still really pushing to make sure that they're part of that 25 as well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do the rest of the tournament. If Alex gets rotated at any point, but right now he's doing really well for the team, and yeah, 3-3, so a great start. And I feel also like everyone's killing this team a lot and slaughtering them
Yeah,
online,
yeah.
and they're murdering Pochettino online and all this stuff. And it's like, well, we're winning games in a tournament that matters. Like we lost friendlies against Switzerland and Turkey. Like I don't care. Like
It's
I'm
it's
not someone who's going to go out there and start raving about losing a friendly. In the tournament where it matters now, they're performing well.
it's a toxicity of just the interwebs. Either way, I feel like where it matters, Freeman is shining, and that is good for the franchise, for Orlando City. Is good for the league, and is good for him. Mark of a Fighter, sponsored by Modelo. This is the Gold Cup.
Great beer.
They showcase him as one of the best defenders in the Gold Cup. They put right here, Alex Freeman stepped up big time. 7 duels won, 4 tackles, 2 interceptions. One of the best numbers in the Gold Cup so far defensively. Also, I do want to say with him is, again, he should not be overlooked, and I think already the club knows. I think everyone knows, but it's you also don't want to like take him to heaven, and praise him too much, and then the fall is even harder. And I think people over criticize the whole entire team, not only Freeman but the whole entire team when they lost against Turkey, like you said, in Switzerland. No, I think it was no, was it Switzerland? Yeah, Switzerland. Yeah, with Mbolo and everybody else. Look, these are UEFA teams that play competitively. They're some of the players in the biggest leagues in the world, and this is mainly an MLS team of first timers. And I think we need to take into consideration also the level of hurdles we're going to experience in the Gold Cup. And no disrespect, but the U.S. has faced, I think the toughest matchup has been Haiti, and I think the upcoming one is Costa Rica. That's when things start getting really good, But facing the Trinidad and Tobago, and with all due respect, I mean, you can, Poch wanted to face tough competition that knew that they could probably beat his team, to see maybe some of the moments where they lack certain attention, or things they need to tie up on, to take it to this tournament and then be really impressive. And so far, I think I'm happy with the results, John.
Yes, indeed. They've done very well, man. Let's see how far they can go. Let's talk. The next thing we're going to talk about, Luis, is sort of like mid-season questions, or like mid-season review. I'm going to ask some questions to everybody. First of all, we got a few questions in the chat. If you want to, sorry, a few comments in the chat if you want to read those, and then we'll get into our mid-season questions I got for you.
Let's read some comments here. I have Vega. Do I see Freeman in the World Cup roster? I do see Freeman in the World Cup roster. Vega also says, I think the game against Haiti was his best game. I agree with you as well. I think he was one of the best. Him and Tolkien did tremendous. The Twitter takes on Alex so far are crazy. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, it's freedom of speech.
Yeah, there's always going to be people who, in the U.S. national team, there's some loud voices who shout loud, and no, it is what it is. Alrighty, our mid-season questions. Okay, Luis, first one. Orlando City are 5th in the East with 30 points. On a scale of 0 to 10, so 0 at the lowest, 10 at the top, how would you rate the overall performance of the team so far? In chat, you can also put, your 0 to 10 in the chat for us. What are you thinking, Luis? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
I'll say a solid 8. I feel
an 8.
It's a solid A, because I feel it's a solid 8 because, look, it's a better start. People always in the beginning of the season, our season starts in July, in June, and it didn't happen this year. Um, and the depth, it was very influential. The appearance of Alex Freeman killing it from the get-go. Boom, you have Atuesta making an immediate impact. Obviously, his latest form may not be the best, but it's because he has nagging injuries, and it is part of the MLS. You have also, Ramir Enrique and Muriel having that resurgence at the beginning of the first few games. So overall, I feel, and obviously Pasalic, what can you say about Pasalic, the immediate impact he's had? So everything has really worked. I'm just a little bit concerned, and I don't know if you feel the same way, of now the fallout of Duncan McGuire, and how the depth is going to be. If you ask me, knowing Oscar, I think our next man up guy, John, is Justin Ellis. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. I want to see more minutes for Justin Ellis. Concerned about Duncan, but it is what it is. A shame, but things happen in football. 8.0. That's where you're going to give them on that one. I think that's about right. I think like a 7.5 or an 8. F here in the chat said I give them an 8.5. They're just overachieved and adjusted to the new pieces faster than any of us expected. Yeah. I think that's very true.
That is a very accurate statement.
I think a lot of people are concerned with, there's so much like we're going to be terrible when Facu left.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't believe that. I don't think you believe that, Luis, but I think it didn't take as long as I thought. Maybe it would take us till the summer to figure out the new pieces, but really everything clicked early on. We had a shaky defensive issues right at the beginning of the season, but that's been cleared up. Then we had some issues scoring goals for a while, and we had some 0-0s, and that sucked, but we've come out the other side of that. I feel like we had a really good performance last game out, a solid, strong performance away, a tough place to get 3 points. And we sit fifth in the table that, other years we might be more like Charlotte or Red Bulls down in 8th or 9th, Luis, right? And be like, oh, like maybe
exactly.
We'll get in the playoffs. This year, we're right up there. 30 points. In other years, we would be up in 2nd or 3rd. I just think this year is crazy how good Nashville have been, how good Philly have been. I expected Cincy and Columbus to be up here, but I did not expect, the likes of Nashville and Philly to be that high as well. So we are competing with the best of the best in the East and with the best of the best in MLS overall. So it's going to be tough, Luis, but I think we've had a very good start. If we look at where we were compared to last year, huge improvement, right? Like we were nowhere near this last year, and look where we ended. So a very good starting platform here, Luis, for us to go on. All right, question 2. Which defender has performed best so far this season, do you think?
Which defender?
Yeah, out of all the defenders, like any of the back 4.
Well, for sure.
Or you can pick a goalkeeper. You can pick Pedro if you wish.
I think Alex Freeman.
You're going to go Alex? That's a very good choice. Yeah.
I think Alex Freeman. It's been, bold, fresh, not afraid, taking tactically, I think, aside of Kyle, I think he's probably the 2nd or 3rd best listener for Oscar. He listens to every direction and follows accordingly. Dude gets he wakes up early, goes to sleep late, stays longer in practices. I mean, the kid's really trying to, this is his career, this is what he wants to do for the rest of his life. So, I mean, he's definitely given it all. And I think he's impressed not only us, but the whole entire Orlando City soccer community and now the UN's men's national team. So I think Alex Freeman for sure. It's his year.
I'm gonna go close second, Pedro Galese, because I feel like he's had a lot of good performances, a lot of clean sheets.
Exactly.
And then close in third, maybe tied second, David Brecalo.
Yeah.
I think
100%.
Massive improvement from last year. When we did our preview on the season, we did not. We were not.
Is he gonna last?
We weren't not hopeful. We were just can he stay fit and be the guy that we hoped he can be? and so far he has been that guy. So that's awesome to see, and he is a great piece of our back line. So yeah, definitely Alex, but also those two as well in the defense. Have really impressed us. So Air Vega, they're saying beside Alex, I would go for David Brecalo as well. Question 3: which midfielder has performed best so far this season? And now you can have like a D mid or an attacking mid. I don't really mind. You can't have any of the
Well, I think
strikers
it's
for this
been
one.
very influential, and it's saved us in a lot of games, and it's been probably an unsung hero, Joran Gerbe. And again, this is another newcomer that no one saw coming. We expected. Remember when there's been really good players coming off the draft, and there's been also players that we only saw once on the picture and they never played. And I think with Joran, because of what he accomplished in college, we expected, to be eased up, maybe OCB, and then being stopped little by little, having a couple of games during the year when it was needed. But I mean, we went down Wilder. We went down Atuesta. And the dude literally carried that backpack. Easy peasy cover girl, man. He took care of that right away. And again, that fearlessness in his eyes to keep pushing forward, I think I love that the most. So kudos to him. But I do feel like if Wilder would have been completely fit, we would have not seen Joran Gerbe. And I think God works in mysterious ways, as they say, and a man's loss is another man's win. And I think Joran grabbed the brass ring, and I think he's running with it. I don't know what you feel, John.
Yeah, no, I think Joran was up there in my like top of like midfield. I think Atuesta is probably also one of our
Ojeda
best.
too.
I mean,
if you consider him a mid,
if we're gonna go really like, I'd say let's put it in midfielders. It can be any of the attacking midfielders. Then Ojeda would be the number one.
Yeah, of course.
I would say Ojeda is probably. I'm gonna say he's gonna be the answer for my next question, which is the best attacker so far this year. Ojeda. I would say Ojeda is probably the guy.
Yep.
But it could also be Marco Pasalic who would win that
100%.
one.
He's second.
But yeah, in terms of midfielders, Ojeda definitely, Pasalic up there. In terms of pure attackers, this year I don't like Muriel has been an improvement, but it's a step backwards for Duncan, just sadly because the injuries that he's gone through. Enrique has not really got off the. He's had a few goals, but he hasn't really got firing as much as he did last year. So I feel like we're really lacking in the striker position at the moment. So Justin Ellis, like you talked about, Luis, is there a role for him to be able to get some more minutes? Can Enrique get back into that form from last year? Like he's going to get more minutes now if Duncan's not going to be the one coming off the bench. If Muriel's starting, it's almost guaranteed that Enrique is going to be getting minutes. Or if Enrique starting, with Muriel off the bench, that also works. But those two will have to carry most of the load now, and maybe Justin Ellis is going to see a little bit more time. So for you, Luis, attacker, probably Ojeda as well. Is that what
110% Martin Ojeda? I mean, the way this guy has kept himself fit, more. He's playing as when he scored 12 or 13 goals in the Argentinian league. So the reason why Orlando purchased him, technically he's going back to that particular form in a way more competitive league, more physical league like the MLS, with a lot of traveling, with the heat, with the cold and the altitude. Good for him. I'm proud of him. I think he's come a long way. His leadership style right there up front, motivating his teammates. And again, I agree with F. Looking at the comments here, he says Justin Ellis might be the only forward option that's over 6 feet tall. 110% agree. And let's go. I mean, look at Alex Freeman.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to make academy. Brazil does that all the time. They put in the Brazilian league kids that are 16, 17 years old all the time. and it's a normal thing. Like, I think if Orlando becomes known, and we may have another diamond in the rough with Justin Ellis. I mean, he's already impressed in youth teams.
No, yeah,
I'm
he's
I'm
highly,
I'm
highly rated.
comfortable with Justin Ellis taking the reins, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way, John.
We'll see what he can do. He has to make that step up, right? Like Alex did it so smoothly, but not every guy does that. He needs the minutes first, and then let's see, how he will do at this level. Air Vega talking about Marco. I think Marco definitely is having an incredible season. Is probably almost tied with Ojeda for our best
100%.
attacker this year. Ojeda has more goals, just and more assists, but sorry, he has more goals. Marco has more assists, but overall, I feel like both of them have just been contributing so much, and we're gonna rely on those two more than any other two
Yeah.
players in the rest of the season and in the postseason if we're gonna come out of this thing with the trophy this year.
How many times we, at least I did, I don't know if you, John, but at least I did, when Faku would lose the ball, and he will never come back and press the other player or try to get the ball back. Not like he was not keen to play defense. Not with Marco. I mean, Marco runs, defense. Hey, we're gonna do a puppy special. We're gonna lock the we're gonna lock the door. Like, he's the first one grabbing the key. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I like that about him, his work ethic, and he's translated that good form into having a bid with Croatia, which is a massive national team, and putting really literally the MLS on the map with Orlando City right there in Croatia, saying, "Hey, look, Marco, he's resurgence his freaking career. He's doing playing really good. Hey, why not call this guy and have him play with Croatia again?" I think it's great. I think you're completely right on that, John.
yeah. I mean, Muriel is definitely part of this as well. Like he's got 6 this year, but he needs to do more in the rest of the season, and I don't think he's the one we should rely on. Because I feel like he's inconsistent in his games, or sometimes he's just not hitting the target. And also because of his age, Luis. I feel like, Ojeda and Marco can play every game. They can do it all, right? Whereas there's Muriel after a certain amount of minutes, definitely like a Wednesday and Saturday games, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes across both those games. So, you
Yeah,
know, that's where I would love to see Enrique step up there and become the first team starter again in that position, because like you talked about guys that are going to, yes, we have seen more of Muriel on the defense, but Enrique will press from the front. And then if you've got the rest of them is doing the same thing, you've got 11 guys on the field at that point who are all willing to put, work behind the ball and press. So let's see what this team could do.
well,
But so far this year, those are the guys that have been impressing the most. Angulo is probably on the, I have a question in here. I didn't put this one in, but who has, been the biggest sort of disappointment in terms of players this year for you?
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been between. I mean, it definitely has been Angulo, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
that's kind of why I didn't put it in.
I think.
We
I
all
mean,
know.
no disrespect, but it's just that Santos, Angulo, these are players that came from really not having any minutes in the clubs that we bought them from, essentially, and Angulo made an immediate impact. He's very influential, but I feel like he's kind of lost his way a little bit, and lost his footing. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just feel like he's right now in the attacking third. I mean, I could definitely understand Muriel, because Muriel is definitely old, and I guarantee you this is not a player. And with all due respect, Muriel is not a player you build your franchise for the future. And I think right now, Orlando City is one of the most forward-thinking clubs in the MLS, and so I see more next year having a Yutaro Sukada having some chances, coming of an injury that's gonna be on a free for Orlando, and then having Justin Ellis being groomed this year and maybe be a little bit more influential next year with Ramiro and maybe a new striker. I don't know, but I don't really see Muriel. And right now, if you ask me, I don't see Muriel and Angulo next season. You know, that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
Unless they totally turn it around.
I mean, this is a lot of like this team is built to. There's a lot of contracts that will be up, right? This team is built to win this season. I think that's why we got in Atuesta to be a direct replacement for Wilder when he couldn't be there this year. And we were like, we need a guy who's ready to go right now, not a project guy. And so yeah, this is I think for a lot of these players, Luis, this is it. I think this is now, or they're probably gonna move them on. All right, next question. What has been the biggest what result, has been the biggest disappointment so far this season? So not player, what result has been the biggest disappointment so far this season? I think I know what you're gonna say.
Well, what?
What result? Like which game has been the biggest disappointment?
Oof. I mean, well, the biggest disappointment. I mean, it's been the one for. Oof. There's a lot of games. I mean, I would hate to say just one big disappointment.
I gotta get you to pick one game that you're just like, oh, that game was like, I can't believe we lost that.
Well, the one
or
against
like you were most annoyed that we lost.
well, I mean, the one against Chicago, we should have never lost, in my opinion.
The Chicago 3-1. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty
I
brutal.
think that one was like, what the hell, man, you know? And again, I understand tired legs and things and all of that. And you know, one thing I do want to say is that standout moments for Orlando City, it's been this season, all rivalry games, you know, and the Atlanta game, I guess you'll say, you know, the Atlanta, you know, that.
I think well, we haven't really lost that many games this season, but the opening game of the season was not a great way to start, but that didn't bother me that much. It was just like, okay, we messed up opening day. The Nashville 3-2 in the Open Cup,
that was
probably my most disappointing, just because it was like, damn, now we're out of the Open Cup, and I
forgot about that one.
Everybody really just dislikes Nashville, and then the way we threw away the game against Atlanta is definitely up there. So I think everybody personally has different reasons, but I can see like Chicago, like that sucks because like we just really
I forgot about the Open Cup. Definitely the disappointing one was the Open Cup for sure.
You're gonna go Open Cup? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go the Atlanta game just because how we threw it away and it was against Atlanta.
But on the positive note, if you ask me, you know, what's been one of the key moments so far in this half of the season, you have to understand.
Well, that's our next question is what has been the best moment, like, or the best result so far this season?
Well, I mean, you're talking about all rivalry games except the latest Atlanta one, but all rivalry games in general have been this year victories for Orlando. Difference from last season. So like the 3-0 victory against Inter Miami on May 18th, I think that's definitely one of the biggest wins this season so far, especially because of the hatred that the fans have against Miami.
That was nice, yeah.
Right, and it's finally kind of like saying, hey, you know, Florida is purple, you know, and we're here to dominate you. And we did it with Messi and all his friends, and also putting the end to the Rowdies 5-0 in Tampa Bay. I mean, I think that those two wins were massive, not only for our morale boosts, but massive when it comes to getting closer to the objective. So it is disappointing the Nashville loss after that massive Tampa win 5-0, you know. So
what are you gonna go for then? What do you think? Which game is the best so far?
The best one? The Inter game. The Inter game.
You're gonna go the Inter Miami beating down in their house.
Yeah, because we're sticking it to the man. You know, I mean, I think we're fighting against not just Inter Miami.
I'm gonna go. My head says that answer, but my heart says because I was there in person for the 5-0 smashing of the Rowdies, and just like the nostalgia for me
Yeah.
personally that had, and just going there with all the away fans and being in that stadium and how much fun it was. Like that was the best thing so far for me this season. But second for sure is the Inter Miami 3-0 result. Third, yeah, the Atlanta 3-0 smashing at home. That's great. Yeah, like you said, rivalries. Only Nashville are the ones that we haven't beat this year. So we got to go after Nashville in the second half of the season, get some revenge, hopefully, and beat up on them, because we want to be the kings of the Southeast, Luis. Alrighty. Question 8. What do you think? What moves do you think Orlando City should make in this summer transfer window, Luis?
Oof. Let me see here.
Like you could just name positions, or you don't have to name players. We might do some transfer stuff if we get into that. We'll see, but I don't know if they even have plans. I just think at this midpoint in the season, if there's something you could do right now to help the squad and you think they should do, what would you do?
Look, I feel like we need an all-out, you know, probably another center back. I think we're a little thin there. When it comes, I mean, I know Brecala could play center back. I know, but I feel like Oscar is not ready to put in Thomas Williams. Otherwise we already would have seen them. And with Schlegel, he's had a monster season so far, for sure, and he's definitely and Jansen as well. But they're Rodrigo's pushing 28. Robin is pushing 33. The form, this league is long. If we can get, somebody to come help right there on defense that can play center back and right back, or sorry, center back and maybe left back, it'll be great. Just to have somebody there available. Also, if Oscar doesn't feel comfortable, maybe another winger. Maybe another. I mean, if he feels confident with the defense and he doesn't want to touch it, I think a winger that's going to give competition to Ivan Angulo. Utaro was going to be that guy. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way, especially with his injury. But, I think if Utaro would have been healthy with this form that Ivan is on, I feel like Utaro would have definitely won that duel. He probably would have been the starter. So I think I think those two. I don't know if a striker, knowing Oscar, I think he's going to run with Muriel. And again, you have to understand, we still have Gustavo Caravallo. We also have Justin Ellis, but I think those two, winger and a defender.
I would agree. I would go similar to that. I would go center back though for me, because I think Brecalo has been so good at left back. I would go center back just to bring in coverage. Plus, I feel like we're gonna need a new center back at some point anyway. We just have no backups. We're playing all three of our center backs in our starting lineup every single week. Thomas Williams is not trusted by Oscar as bright as some people think he is in OCB. He has not been given the opportunities. So really our fourth center back option is Kyle Smith, and love Kyle Smith, but let's find, another up and coming young center back or maybe there's another one in the academy that can step up, Luis. I'm fine with that too, but I feel like we need coverage there, or left back. I wouldn't mind a striker. That would be nice if we're really serious about scoring more goals, but it would need to be someone who would score a lot of goals. I just don't know if we have the room in the budget. Maybe a U22 striker could be nice if we could do that. But then it's going to get crowded there. They're going to really have to think about who's moving on in the summer if you've got four strikers with Duncan, Enrique, Muriel, and another guy. I would say definitely, Luis, we want to go with like a defender, a left back or a center back. Maybe a guy who could play left back and right back would be nice.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. A defender that could play left back and maybe center back.
Yeah,
because Brecala also, we have to sometimes give him some days off because he's had some injuries.
Yeah.
So I
A
mean, if we can,
versatile all-around defender would be
right,
great.
an all out
Center
young,
back, and left back, and right back.
yeah, like a young under 22 defender that needs minutes, that is physically imposing. That we're able to groom him to possibly be a starter down the road. Why not? I truly feel with you. Thinking about it. If we know Oscar real well, he's gonna. I mean, look, he gave Jack Lynn the freaking keys of the castle. At times, and I feel Justin Ellis left leg has probably more edge than than Jack Lynn, as a player. So
Yeah, I
I'm,
think that's
I'm
the thing. Jack knew his ceiling was met.
right.
Yeah,
So
and
so now maybe next year we'll see. When it comes to a winger, you have a lot of players that could play winger. If you think about it, look, Fabian Loyola. Yeah, he's coming back from injury. He already came back. Apparently, he's playing with OCB. Caraballo, he can play that position too. So, and I think we're gonna allow that contract to maybe run out, and I think that could be another really big splash in signing a top winger, like a Diego Rossi type of winger. You know what I mean? MLS proven left winger. I think that's what the team needs for next season. But for this season, I agree with you. I think defense wins championships. Um, an all-out defender that's young, that's able to have that stamina to give some fresh minutes to our core.
yeah, I mean, God forbid we have an injury to one of our back
Exactly,
four.
we'll be screwed. Yeah,
I really don't want to think what we'll do with that.
yeah.
I mean,
No.
up steps Kyle Smith in whatever position, really, isn't it? That's what's going to happen. Um, all right, my final question, our mid-season questions. What are your expectations for the remainder of the season, based on how we've done so far?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, like, what are your expectations for the remainder of the season? You know, the fact that we've come fifth
Oh, for
so
sure.
far on 30 points, having some good wins, the majority of decent results, a lot of draws. How do you think that sets us up, and how does that affect your expectations for the rest of the season?
I think right now, the depending on next game, we have to go all out against Cincinnati, and I think a win against St. Louis is going to be vital. We'll talk about it in just a second, but it's just going to catapult us into facing a really big route, which is going to be Cincy, which is going to be a 6 point match. I think the expectation now is to be a top three team in the MLS, in the East at least. I think it is feasible. Top three, with a win here, we're probably going to be there. So top three, I think this is what we need to aim for right now, short term. But depending on the result against St. Louis, I could aim into, really possibly going for. I mean, talk about 6 points. You know, going with Philadelphia toe to toe to see, support a shield, maybe. Club World Cup 2029. You imagine Orlando City Club World Cup 2029? I think we'll do a better job than LAFC for sure.
Then they'll be
That'll be
annoyed they
good.
didn't build it in Orlando. Anyway, I agree, Luis. I feel like ceiling wise, like if we perform at our max, we can win the East. We can win Supporter Shield. Like we're not out of that race. Our defense is one of the best in the East and in MLS, and our attack is very strong when it all works together, and we're defending well, and having good progressive midfield, and actually being clinical and taking our chances. We're a very good team, and especially on the counter attack, we're extremely clinical. So if we can continue to perform like that, we can become a top one or two team in the East, no doubt. But on the other side, if we perform maybe not so well, then we're going to start sinking down into the seventh, eighth, ninth places, right? Like if we it can happen. This is a tight table here. A few bad results, Luis, and you can drop right down if others perform well around you. So We need to make sure that we keep grinding out wins and keep performing, because this is a very tough league this year. And if we slip a little bit, it's going to cost you a lot in this table.
Yeah, and to add to what you say, one of the Achilles heel of the team, and the toughest mountain to overcome, it's been consistency. And I think this year, this team, whether you like it or not, whether you could analyze 3, 4, 5, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the team in and out, tactically, XG, whatever you want, what matters is the W. It doesn't matter how, doesn't just matters that you win. Whether if it's 3-2, if it's 1-0, if it's 1-1, 2-1, it just matters that you win. And so I feel Orlando needs to find a consistency of winning. I mean, you could play and Orlando has already shown that they're a resilient team. They're a team that, gets hot and then usually gets cold. Now we're seeing a more consistent Orlando City team that, yeah, some of the games are not the best. Yes, 1-0, like the game against Colorado, for example. I wouldn't say that was like a wow, what an impressive game. I'm watching like Club World Cup level matches. Of course not, but we won, and I think the focus should be on winning. Whatever it takes. We're gonna be that gritty Orlando team that's gonna come to your town and ruin your party. And I think that's the way Orlando has been brewed to be under Oscar Pareja. And I think that consistency is going to take us places. And we just got to keep winning, because you're completely right. This is a team that also is very, I will say, very emotional sometimes. A couple of bad results, people just want to throw the towel. And also the players, come demoralized and, they don't play at their level. I think it's important for them to just keep winning and treat each game one game at a time. Look, the East. If you look at the East, let me share the East here. I mean, look at the East compared to the West, man. It is tremendous how close everything is.
Yeah, so tight right now.
And so that's why I tell people, like, we may drop an L here and there, and we may drop a little bit, and it doesn't mean that we suck. You know what I mean? It's just the way the East has been. The East is what's moving the MLS, when the teams that really maybe don't deserve to be showcased the league, like I think if Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Orlando, even Nashville, or even Columbus will go to the Club World Cup, you will see probably more of like an accurate, how does the MLS measure up, because these teams fight through thick and thin. Each game is like a final. When it comes to LAFC and the other teams, they get to play in the West, and it's easier for them. I don't know if you feel the same way, John, but look, it's super tight.
Yeah, I mean it's like getting tighter in the West, but there are teams at the bottom of the West that are not threatening. I think if you go scroll down a little bit and you look at the teams that are like New England, Chicago, Atlanta, maybe Charlotte, they could all definitely push up into playoff places. So
100%.
they're the only ones I discount really like out of that are like DC, Toronto, Montreal. Those three I really just don't think are good at all this year and won't make the playoffs. But any of the other four will fight, and like the idea that the New Yorks are gonna have to fight to keep their places. Even Inter Miami are under threat, right? So it's that tight where big clubs in the East, or quote unquote, could maybe even not make the playoffs. It can happen, Luis. Yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead and talk about St. Louis. From Mo Football. I was hoping he was able to join us. I don't know if he's available. I think he's stuck in traffic. I know he was on a road trip trying to get back in time, so maybe he's still stuck on the road somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and review St. Louis City without him. But if he joins us later, then we'll jump in to talk all about our latest game. Luis, we've got an away game on Wednesday This is a strange one for us. It's been like 2 weeks off, and then not 2 weeks, but 10 days off, and we've gotten a Wednesday away game, 8:30 our time at Energizer Park, and that is the St. Louis City
Will the
Stadium.
bunny be there?
Will the what?
The Energizer Bunny?
Oh, the Energizer Bunny. In our head-to-head, we have played them one time
There
back
you
in
go.
2023, and we beat them with a 2-1 win. So
Who
really,
scored those goals?
let's go look.
Curious.
That was back in 2021. Torres, Facu got a brace last time we played them, and they had a red card in our house at the very last minute, by looks of it, in the 90 plus 10 minute for Nowinski. So this was I guess Bradley Carnell, right? St. Louis City. I can't remember. I think so. At that point, of course, since then they've gone through some iterations. Luis, they have. They hired a new coach. Well, beginning of end of last season, they fired Bradley Carnell, and they went out and they found a new coach, and they found Olaf Melberg. And Olaf Melberg lasted until about a month ago when they fired him. And the reason they fired him, Luis, is because, as you could guess, they have not been performing very well. Here you go on the league table. You can see they have just 3 wins, 6 losses, and 6 ties and 9 losses on the season. So really not good season for St. Louis City so far this year. 15 points only on the season. Most recently, they got a draw 3-3 with LA Galaxy. Now, bear that in mind, LA Galaxy have 8 points, and the only team below them who are, having a historically terrible season themselves. So a draw against LA Galaxy this year is basically a loss in itself. Before that, they lost to the Portland Timbers, who, when we played them, I wasn't that impressed by. And then before that, they did manage to get a win versus San Jose, a team that are doing a little bit better this year. So, and before that, a loss, and before that, a loss. So I've not a good season at all for St. Louis City. They are currently with a temporary manager or a caretaker manager until they figure out who their new manager is going to be. Their third manager this will be in a year, Luis. So a little bit of turmoil at a club that really wants to be considered quite large based on their fan base and, the fact that they think of themselves as a potential winner and, perhaps I don't want to say like a big club in the future, Luis, but, whoever you think that they could be.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to this team, this is a team again that we need to put away. We need to beat. Look, this is a team that right now has really good defensive resilience. They had 5 clean sheets. They play against teams like Vancouver that were second in goals scored and didn't do pretty bad. They play against San Diego. They have a low possession style that allows them to kind of absorb the pressure. So that's something that Orlando is also used to. Um, and it's going to be interesting to see. Also, it's going to be the showcase of the goalkeepers, Berkey against Galese. A lot of people say, oh, Roman Berkey. Well, it's going to be Berkey against Galese. And it's that's going to be great, to see. Now, obviously, Energizer Park, it is known to be a really tough venue. Um, St. Louis it gets stronger. They have a really good fan base, young fan base. It reminds me a lot of when Orlando first came into the league, of course. But this is a team that we could exploit. The set pieces, for example. I think against Portland, Portland was able to score on them through set pieces. A lot of the teams scored through them through set pieces. So we have a Schlegel, we have Jansen, we have Ojeda. We have a lot of players that can adapt themselves into the set pieces. Also, make sure that we are targeting, hitting them through the midfield. I know they have pretty dynamic midfielders, and I think a more of like a Cesar Araujo and a Tuesta duo that is healthy is going to be important to maintain the possession and the control of the game. And the biggest thing for Orlando to win this game is the effectiveness. If they're going to generate 10 chances, at least put away one or two. I mean, that's just being nice. We have to capitalize because this is a team that, whether you like it or not, that number 9 they have there, Klaus, he's a beast. He's a beast. Like that's a player I would like to have in Orlando as my number 9. That guy, you give him a little bit of space, he has the physicality to make you fly away. He's a pretty good 9, and they also have good wingers. So attacking wise, I will say we're evenly stacked there. I don't know, but I feel like we need to take advantage of our chances.
Yeah, I mean they attacking wise do not rank well. I feel like under Olaf Melberg, they were like trying to be a defensive first team, like you said, and they were not even that good
Yeah,
defensively under him, and they had no attack whatsoever. So the attacking stats for them were non-existent. Now under the caretaker manager, they're trying to be what they were before, which was like a more of a pressing team. Luis, they want to, I believe, step up more and press more, especially at home. I expect them to be quite aggressive on the press. But their attack is, like Joao Klaus scored a hat trick last game, but again, it was against LA Galaxy, who are just awful this year. So take that with a pinch of salt. I really, they're not a good team in the West. I think we have to look at this as, if we're able to go to Colorado and get 3 points there, we
yeah,
can definitely go to St. Louis City this year and take 3 points. And they should be, I'm not saying like they should be concerned, but they will be worried about a team as good as we have been this year in the East, and as competitive as Orlando City is, and as strong as we are in both attack and defense across the board, especially on the counter attack, and our away performances. It's going to give them concern that we're going to come into their house and, give them another L this year, like they've had from a lot of teams that have come into this stadium that they in other years had of a bit of a fortress and a place where it was difficult to get a result. This year, teams are coming in and raiding the house and taking points. So we definitely want to be one of those teams. I don't think there's any reason why we can't beat them. And I think that we got to watch out. I think it's going to be one of those like first 20, 30 minutes. We got to maybe be a bit more defensive, Luis, and set up a little bit, more like, be a little bit more low with our blocks, keep guys at home a little bit more, absorb some of that pressure. I think they're going to come out aggressively in the first 20, 30 minutes, try and get us to 1-0 where we have to then come out and attack. I think what we want to do is absorb that, try and hit them on the counter attack with our guys, try and get that first goal in the first half. And then they're going to really have to, come at us. And again, we can then sit in ourselves and perhaps strike them in the second half with another goal from a counter attack again. Like I feel like who scores first in these away games, just like it was for the Colorado one, is so vital.
yeah. I mean, it's look, implementing a low block, just like you said, it requires excellent positional discipline, focus, and concentration from your backline. And so, from starters, the backline needs to be concentrated. They need to be focused, and they need to show the focus they've been showing. So as long as our defense is consistent, then the low block, what's going to do, is, especially for a weaker team, maybe if you want to call St. Louis a weaker team, whether you play a weak team or a stronger team, it's just going to force to play wide, you know. And when you play wide, you're going to have, your Pasalic and your Angulos. And again, I reiterate, it is important that when the defense does the job, the attacking third is not putting the whole responsibility on the back line. They need to execute the chances they create when they force the other team, when they force themselves to play wide against St. Louis. Because you could defend all you want, but then this could be, I know it could become like the Colorado game. It could become a 1-0 result, and then you have everybody with their tongue out, and then you have Pasalic on post press conference saying, "Hey, I couldn't breathe very well," you know. So I just think it's important for it's a trickle down effect. Low block, I agree 100% with you. I think we should definitely do that. I think if we play St. Louis that way, they're a very exploitable team. But the attacking third needs to show the responsibility now. I
Yeah.
want to think, and now there's no excuse. How long have they had of a break, John? They had of a break, like
Oh,
how long?
like 10 days, really. We've had,
Right, 10 days
a
of
week and
break,
a few days.
asado. Their
Yeah.
wives making little
Yeah,
massages on their
they got to
feet.
go all the way home and then
Right,
go
they
back
went to the
out again.
park.
So,
They went to see Shamu.
yeah.
Maybe Epic Universe. Heal all the wounds. There's no excuse now. It's time to go to work, and I think Orlando right now needs to show why they're a top four team in the East.
Yeah. I
Com-
agree.
we have
Uh,
some comments here. You want me to read them
no,
real quick?
please read the comments and then I will
Megatron
comment
says,
on them.
"Hola, hello, Megatron." So first time the team is traveling to Missouri, says Saf. That's interesting.
Yeah, so you've never been to the stadium before.
Wow, tremendous. The real challenge will be back four without Alex and Schlegel for the first time this season. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
They,
that's what I did want to say. Availability wise, we are down Alex and Schlegel.
well, Dagger and I
As
mean,
well as Nico Rodriguez as per last game, and then we know about obviously Wilder
what happened? What happened last
and
game with Nico
Sakata.
Rodriguez again?
Nico Rodriguez had thigh last game, and he's still been under thigh. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to come off that.
Jeez.
Schlegel is yellow card accumulation. Um,
I'll
but
send him to OCB. Get me Solis, and we'll give you Nicolas Rodriguez for next season.
right.
William Diaz says, "Good evening, guys. I agree we need to improve our consistency. A win's a win, no matter how ugly." I agree with you, sir. Thank you for your support. Stream Jesus, how you doing, Stream Jesus? Hey, John. Says Stream Jesus.
It's strange, Luis, because look at this. Hold on,
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
I got something odd here to look at. So as of June 11th, right? Oh, okay, that's why they haven't updated it yet. This is still
Oh,
last.
okay.
This is still last week's. So as of last week, this is where Schlegel was one yellow away. Then he got the yellow. So guys who are still one yellow away, Atuesta, Pedro, and Jansen, all to watch out for right now are one yellow away from accumulation as well.
Yeah, and it's huge because look, if I'm Oscar Pereja, I'm thinking ahead of Cincinnati as well. I won my
Yeah.
A team against Cincinnati.
Yeah, we've got Cincinnati on the weekend, so
Like I think,
both a couple Midwest teams here.
yeah, I think it's smart for Oscar to maybe run with Brecalo as a center back, Rafa Santos, even though I don't like it,
Yeah,
and maybe even Kyle Smith as a center back with Dagger Dan as a right back, and then Kyle gets wants to take a breather, and then you put Schlegel in minute 85. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would rather have that
yeah.
than having Schlegel the whole game, and then
I think he's gonna go Brecalo center back and then Smith at left back and Dagger at right back.
wish the team appealed the Schlegel yellow because that was some bullshit. I agree with you, but
We
again,
only have two appeals. We already wasted one on Oscar's appeal.
I think we
I
have
believe.
our guest on
Yeah,
backstage.
is Mo here? Can you talk to
Yeah.
us real quick for about
Yep.
St. Louis City? Mo, what's up, Mo? How you doing, buddy? Good to
Uh,
you could join us.
Oh, not much, not much. Still trying to recover from a long drive from Austin. So hopefully I don't talk too much or fall asleep on the live stream.
You're good. We're just talking about our matchup on Wednesday. Mo has, well, you could tell us, Mo, all about your channel that you do, and I know you cover St. Louis City as well.
Yeah, so pretty much, I think most people know me with Mo Football, but we just started with my friends Oscar, Charlie, and Jeremy, the Top Corner Talk. So we meet every morning at 9 p.m. Central Time. So sometime later to that to talk about the upcoming game and the break and all the fun stuff happening with San Luis these days.
You guys are having an interesting season this year. Tell us a little bit about like what the vibes are with St. Louis City.
Oh, I think it almost depends on who you ask from the team. So I'm a little bit more of the optimistic person. So I will say it could always be worse. But changing coaches, I have the feeling of like the whole Chelsea things where we change coaches like we change underwear. The team is not doing so well at the moment, but we're seeing progress. But how MLS shows us is that there's still a slight chance of making it to the playoffs, but I think Orlando is one of those teams that now we have to kind of hope they have a bad game to give us a chance to have a little bit of hope.
Tell us about like Olaf Melberg was such an offensive coach,
Yeah,
and St. Louis City. I feel like you guys have built this whole culture of being an aggressive, pressing team. To me, from the outside, it feels like it was never going to work. It What was that like when he's been fired mid-season, and what have the changes been since then? With the team and the way they've been playing.
yeah, I think that one is still a head scratcher because we're still trying to. So we knew from his EPL times that he was a center back, so defense was his thing early on. But the biggest promise we had was also that he was huge on youth players, and probably from what you guys saw is that there was no one under the age of 25 that played in his tenure, and we did well the first 5 games in defense, but then it went down because you have to score goals to win games as well. So I think that and also the profile of what St. Louis is was not really shown with his tactics. And that's where you see the progression now after the changes where we have a interim coach now that's kind of been with City from day one. So he's like a core St. Louis coach that knows what we are all about. So that was the biggest contrast, and I think that's why things did not work out for Mulder, just to the fact that his identity did not match. But then it raised some of those questions with our sporting directors, ownership was like, how did he manage to go through that? All of their interviews and all of the process presentations, and that did not come up. So hopefully we'll get an answer from that. But that's if you guys know the answer, you'll probably be a millionaire from there
I
because
no,
we
yeah,
don't.
it seemed like the wrong fit, and then he was not trying to play the one type of soccer you guys wanted. Um, do you feel like it is back to that now? Who's the caretaker manager at the moment?
Uh,
What's his
hopefully,
name? I have
I
no
don't
idea.
want. I don't want to match up. His name is Krigic. He's like a British that
Okay, so he's
coaches
been
that.
the whole
Yeah.
time with the
Yes.
team. Do you feel like you're back to in the last 3 games, has it been back to that kind of high pressing, high energy soccer?
I would say it's still the high pressure one, but it looks like our midfield is doing a little bit more of that work and holding the ball a lot more than the first season. It was like a bull in the china cabinet, right? 110% for 90 minutes. I think now we're a little bit more skillful and thoughtful in the process, but still have the high pressure. So he's definitely bringing the identity back of what Solo is. Every time he talks about it, that's what he keeps bringing up, and you can start to see the formation as well. And I think we're starting to get a little bit of luck as well that we're starting to get some of our first starters coming back to health and show what they have. So that's we're on the come up.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of like guys on your team, Joao Klaus got a hat trick last game. I'm guessing him, but who else do you feel like are players that we should watch out for? Guys that this season you feel like are dangers and threats to our back line?
Yeah, and I think that's the tricky part because even when in our pods we were talking like you have your usual suspect, right? The Leuven, the Hartel, that are supposed to be our key players, but they was kind of held so much in the previous regimes that they were not able to show what they were capable of. So I'm hoping that's the picture that we'll see. It's more of a freedom for Hartel to do what he does best. And we're still waiting to see Silva, so maybe this will be his time to show um, what he's capable of.
What are your expectations for this game, man? I mean, like if we're gonna do our predictions that we always do, but why don't you give us yours first?
Oh, that's gonna be a good one. So we're at City Park or Energizer Park,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be a hot day, and on the break as well. You know what? I'll say 2-1. I'm going to be a little bit conservative on that one.
You're gonna go 2-1.
Yes.
Alrighty. I like that. All right. So for you or for us?
Oh, for San Luis.
Okay, I just checking.
They just gonna run me out of town.
You're big. You're just, I like that. All right. So positive 2-1 for you. I mean, I feel like we said before, whoever scores first is vital in this one. Like we just come off an away game at Colorado, and when we get that first goal away, we have enough defense about us to be able to shut down and make it difficult for you guys. Like you said, you haven't scored goals early. Haven't scored a lot of goals this year. Luis, what are you thinking? Where are you going to put in? Mo,
Well,
by the way,
have-
this is what we do every game where we put it in here so we can keep receipts of what we said.
I love receipts.
So first, I want to say hello to Mo. Thank you, Mo, for being here. Appreciate you. So, the guys had like 10 days to kind of go to Epic Universe, to go to see Shamu, to drink a couple margaritas, virgin margaritas, obviously, relax with the wife and the kids, and heal from all wounds. Technically, they should win this game. So if I'm going based on that, I think it's gonna be 2-0 win Orlando City in St. Louis. First time in Missouri.
Man.
I mean, again, I have a high respect for St. Louis and their fan base. I think and that's one thing that I don't know if it's all. I think that'll be a question for Mo. I don't know if it's all teams in the MLS, but I feel like Austin and St. Louis have been probably the most fun, like fan bases, like of the new teams that have come to the league. And the Luligans, I think it's pretty impressive. Some of the stuff that they've done, the communities initiatives that they've done in St. Louis, I think it's pretty similar to what we've done here in Orlando before. But also, yes, I have noticed, kind of like Mo touched a little bit about some of the toxicity, and throwing the season away and having zero hope on what's to come. But it's a brand new team, and it's a beautiful stadium. I think, or how many seasons, John, did Orlando City sucked for the?
Man, yeah.
There
Before Oscar, it was pretty bleak. I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak, man.
Yeah. So don't be dismayed at all.
Oh no, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I know the disarray. I think it's just St. Louis got spoiled with the first season. If it was the other way around where we were bad and going up, maybe the experience would have been different. But I think we were way too much in the summit, and then it just burned down quickly.
Well, Mo, I'm gonna pile on the misery with a 3-0 to us. I gotta say, sorry, man. I used
to like Orlando, but I don't know now.
Look, man, I gotta say we've been taking it to the sword to some of these Eastern teams, right? And you guys are the bottom of the West, and the West is not as good as the East, in my opinion. I feel like there's some holes there, and we will probably come and find some holes in this defense of yours. But you might get a goal. I'm gonna give you some hope.
Klaus is,
but we gotta be positive, right, Mo?
Hey, we had two guys that got married and one guy got engaged. So I
Oh,
don't know about you guys, but they are very
They're all
happy
party.
people right now.
They're all going to be drunk from the party still.
Ah,
So
they're
they're
German. They're German. Drinking is part of their
they're just
DNA.
drinking Steins and they're fine.
Yes.
Alrighty, Mo. Before we go, I want to give you an opportunity just to kind of tell people all about your channel here, and promote you and what you do.
Yeah, so pretty much my podcast is Mo Football TV. So pretty much what I do is I promote soccer from grassroots all the way to the pros. I interview coaches, players, whoever, anyone that talks soccer is welcome to talk and enjoy their history. And as a transplant from France, I kind of like to understand now what the
oh
American
wow.
culture is like. And I guess I've been spoiled that St. Louis is a big soccer town. So just sharing the love, getting to know you guys from each of the cities. I still have to go to Orlando, even though I spend most of my vacations there. But
Come see us.
I will definitely let you guys know when I'm around there at Top Corner Talk, pretty much where we all talk soccer. St. Louis specifically on there. So definitely appreciate you guys bringing me on. I know it's a
Well,
little late, but
we're glad you could join us. One last thing I want to say. I know you're a big fan of all the African footballers.
yeah.
We are in a minute about to go ahead and do our Orlando Pride Pod, where we have one of the best African footballers in the world,
Yeah.
Barbara Banda. So I wanted to just hear from your, mouth, your thoughts all about Barbara and, how you view her in the world of women's soccer.
I think, and I think that's probably one I'm actually happy now. I'm starting to see on the movement side, especially um, African players kind of showing how international they are. Because as you know, it's usually the males or European on that part. So I think Barbara was, I think she may have been in Kansas City or Kenya or somewhere where I guess outfitted the whole entire team with Orlando Pride gear. So I think it kind of bring the profile of African soccer, but just not the males.
Yeah.
And it brings a little bit more eyeballs on the World Cup that's coming here as well, because um, NWSL is the best women's soccer league in the world, I will say. So more eyes, the better it is. I'm just hope St. Louis gets one very soon so that we stop giving
Yeah.
Casey Currents all of our
Yeah.
prodigies.
Yeah, Casey Garrett out there. We could talk all day about how we dislike Casey
Yeah, we
Garrett.
don't like
Oh.
Casey Curran.
They're our rivals, so we're not fans. But
I'm nice to them. My
yeah,
old high school is literally 10 minutes from their old stadium, a new stadium. So I'm very nice to them because we don't have no team. So
that's
I'll
good.
keep it PG. Yes.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mo. Thank you to everybody who was here this week. Luis, you go ahead and do our socials and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, we wanted to thank Mo for being here on the program today. We're available on all our social media outlets: Loud and Proud Orlando, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, X, Instagram at LP_podcast, Facebook, YouTube. Check us out, and hopefully it's a W against St. Louis. No disrespect to Mo, but again, we'll see you guys next week. And again, vamos Orlando. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Take care.